It's like I've never done this before.
Hey everybody, so Andrew is here from Sentrilock. He's going to go over some things within the app and then answer any of your questions that you might have. Feel free to chime in. You can type it in the chat box, or if you would like to unmute and go ahead and ask those questions, you're welcome to do so. And Andrew, thank you for being here with us today. We appreciate you very much, and I'm going to let you take it away.
Very good. Thank you so much. Happy to come and join your meeting today. And so Heather has asked me to really just do an overall overview of using the SentryKey app. So we'll focus on that, but I'm going to go into try to dive into a little more detail with some things. So you show you some different things that you might not be using today already. Hopefully by the end of this, I know everybody should at least have been able to use the app at some point. So you should be familiar with the basics, but hopefully I can give you some more advanced things to do. If something goes wrong with the app, just kind of give you some ideas of what can I do in those situations. So that's kind of what she's asked me to do in this demonstration today. So we'll kind of stick light. I'll touch on all the basics. We're going to go through the processes of everything here from start to finish. But hopefully by the end of this, we'll be able to kind of give you a good idea of, what is it that I can do in situations that I come and encounter. So as you know, SentryKey app, using our lockboxes in the app is not requiring any cellular data connection. Some of you may experience some things when you get out to remote areas, and we'll talk about that and what we can do and do to best prepare ourselves when we get into those kind of weak cellular areas. But at the end of the day, one thing that you can do is really put your phone in airplane mode where it has zero communication, and turn on Bluetooth, and you can still access the key compartment in this lockbox. So ultimately, the only time that our app really needs cellular communication is when you open it, and then it authenticates you daily. So every day before you go anywhere, the first thing I'd say to do before you leave your house is just open the app, and once you see this screen, you've been authenticated for the day. So for 24 hours. So anytime you go out anywhere, and if it's completely dead zone, you'll still be fine using the app. The app will still work for you. There are situations where you run into an area where it's only one bar of cell data. And in those situations, it can get a little bit tricky because the app thinks it has cellular communication, and then it wants to communicate with our server and pull information from the lockbox and push that to the servers so that it reflects that on our website. So in times like that, generally speaking, you'll have a slower connection. It'll have the spin wheel telling you that it's trying to connect and do all these things like authenticate, connect, or whatever it's saying, and ultimately trying to pass information to our servers. So that's really the only time I've really encountered, like, I'm going to say trouble, I guess, with the app is when you're in those kind of one bar cellular signal areas. And in those situations, sometimes it's best just to shut your communication to your phone down, go to just airplane mode, Bluetooth only, and then open the key compartment. I don't want to do that here because I'm going to lose connection with what I'm displaying here on the phone. If I shut down my cellular communication, things will go wrong in the demonstration. So I'm not going to do that today, but you can try that on your own. Put your phone in airplane mode and turn on Bluetooth and open the key compartment of a lockbox, and you'll find that it opens up just fine. Because when you get into the areas that's like completely no service, it's completely dead to cellular service, it works like a charm. And I've kind of ridden around in the mountains of North Carolina and tested all different environments with the lock boxes, and I've kind of found these different scenarios that we run into. So that's just to open up the conversation today. So we'll jump into this, and the first thing I'm going to show you is our new carousel, because this is new from whenever we initially launched SentryKey, and since you all have been using it. So I'm going to show you what this looks like and explain what's going on the screen here. So first, again, whenever I go to open the key compartment, I open the app first, is how I like to do it, and then I press enter on the lockbox. This engages the app, then then the lockbox connects, and then it asks you for your PIN number, Touch ID, whatever it's going to ask you for there. So if you've enabled agent safety, you'll notice here that agent safety by default is toggled on. So if you've enabled that feature on your phone, you can toggle it off here at the beginning if you're not in an environment where you want to start the agent safety timer, but it's toggled on by default. So you have to toggle it off if you don't want that timer to start running in the background. So if you've ever enabled this agent safety in the past and one of your contacts, whoever you set as your contact, your spouse, your business partner, whoever, received an email saying that you did not respond to our checks, this is why, because it's automatically enabled by default. So you can toggle it off, and then once you hit continue, it's not showing anything there. This next page here are showing instructions. So the top part where it says showing instructions, where it says none provided, that's going to be showing instructions that come over to us that we import over from the MLS. Okay, so in Flex, if you have showing instructions included in there, anything you include in that showing instructions field will come over and import right into that top space right there. The second space is standard instructions, and the last space is additional instructions. So the standard instructions are something that you can set up in our app. It's additional, like kind of basic stuff: knock before entering, turn lights off, leave, put the key back, things like that. And then the additional information is a modifiable field that you can type in whatever you want to. So this is a good opportunity for you to provide anybody showing your property just a last minute reminder when they're walking into the house, hey, remember to do this. So again, the standard instruction, additional information sections are something that you do in our app. The top section is what you include in Flex. This next section here, we do pull in images and listing information. So it gives you high level information on this carousel of like the square footage, what the listing value of the property is, how many beds and baths are in there. So it's just a quick sneak peek at this property at a high level. You notice mine says open listing detail matrix. If you use RPR or something like that, when you click on that link, it launches you out to those other applications. So if you use RPR, Realtor Property Resource, and if you've downloaded their app and logged into it, it'll link you right into that app, showing bringing this property information up to you so that you can see, dive into the deeper weeds of what's going on with this property. Most of you have your listing sheets that you take around with you when you're showing, but it's just a good resource to have, just to launch you right into the app. So they kind of we integrate with these other applications so that it just links you right into there, so you don't have to go and search into that property resource information. And then the last page is just the listing agent information. So if something goes wrong with trying to get into the key bin, or if the key's missing or something like that, you have the agent's contact information for backup, plan in case you need it. So all that information is right here at the beginning and this carousel. Another thing I want to direct your attention to here in the very beginning, if you look at the top right under my battery indicator, there's a timer. That gives us the ability to end the showing manually. Now, if I were to double click the home button here and just force close the app, that option goes away. But if I just shut down my app or just put it in my pocket and wait, that timer still is available for you to open the app back up. And then once I hit that timer button, it asks me if I want to go ahead and manually end my showing. And so this is your way of telling the listing agent, hey, we're leaving, we're all done, we've wrapped things up, and we move on. Otherwise, it's going to kind of take an account of your geolocation and determine when you've left the vicinity of that property, and then let our app know that you've kind of let the listing agent know and send in the showing notice on your behalf in that case. So that's just the start of it. That's just open the key compartment showing the property. Pretty straightforward. Nothing really kind of go through there outside of this. Another thing that I kind of want to direct your attention to, we're going to move to releasing the shackle. And there's something that I generally do. A lot of us have a habit of walking up to the lockbox and pressing enter and then open the app. So just to, I guess, show you what that looks like. If I hit enter on the lockbox, I open the app, it's automatically going to be asking me for my PIN number or Touch ID. Because the lockbox is it has already activated, it's broadcasting, and it wants me to connect to it. So if I go ahead and open that, it opens the key compartment. But sometimes we just want to go in the app and release the shackle first, right? And so we think we have to complete that process. I could have easily just canceled through that and gone straight to shackle release. But sometimes when we open the key compartment first, I come to this situation where I get to the release shackle page, and there's times where it doesn't connect like it's doing now because it's already established that connection and doesn't think it needs to do anything else. So there's been times where I open the key compartment first and go to the shackle release page, and this Touch ID doesn't automatically come up for me, and then I have to press enter and things like that to get it to do it. And maybe when I'm pressing enter and I press enter on the lockbox, when you press enter on the lockbox and it doesn't beep or light up, what's really happening is it's already connected and paired to your phone. They've already been talking, and it doesn't think that anything else needs to happen. I'm going to unassign this from the property for now. But if you're removing the lockbox from a listing, it's important to unassign it. That way it's no longer attached to that listing and you don't see it there anymore. But let me go back here, and I'm going to try to release the shackle again and see if it'll kind of fault on me here. So now I've already done the shackle release command. If I go back and do it again, this is the normal behavior of the app and what it should be doing. But sometimes if I release a shackle and if I try to do it back to back, or if I've done one action and I try to move to the other action, sometimes it won't catch and ask you to do that fingerprint like it did right now. So let me see if it'll do something here for me. So now I've kind of backed out. And again, this is what it should be doing, but it doesn't always do this. Okay, so I'm kind of going in a loop here trying to get it to replicate to where it does it. But let's say that this Touch ID thing doesn't come up. You hit enter on the lockbox and it's not beeping. So if I hit enter right now on the lockbox, it doesn't make any noise, it doesn't beep, it doesn't light up. That means it's connected to my device, okay? If there's a situation where that Touch ID doesn't come up and ask you for your Touch ID, facial recognition, or PIN number, then you can, what I usually recommend doing is, for my phone, I have an iPhone, and I've got an iPhone 8. And if I just hit the double click the home button here, it gives me my options to force close the app. So what I'll do is force close the app. And you see right here on the block box, you can see the blue lights blinking up there above the number keypad. That means it's still connected to your phone. And you just wait until that kind of stops blinking. And once that blue light stops blinking, then that's when I recommend going back into the app and then starting over where you want to start over from. So if you ever encounter a situation where this Touch ID isn't coming up and the lockbox isn't beeping when you press enter on it, that means your phone's paired with it. I'm going to hit cancel through this, and it's just it's not going to prompt the shackle to release, to engage that shackle release. So force close your app. Let the blue light on the lockbox stop blinking. It may take about 30 seconds. And then open your app. And usually what I recommend, if you want to release a shackle, go and do that first. So you just go in here, get to this shackle release page. And once you're at the shackle release page, wait till then, and then hit enter on the lockbox. So now I'm going to walk through the assigning the lockbox and some of the additional features that go along with the showing settings that I referenced in the very beginning. So I'm going to go ahead and hit, first thing I'm going to do is assign to property. And this is going to pull up all the listings that are in my inventory to assign my lockbox to. There's sometimes where we don't get lockboxes we don't get our listing in first. Sometimes we take a lockbox out to us, to the potential client, with the expectation that we're going to get that listing. And then we get our contract signed, we have the lockbox in hand. We haven't put any of the information in the MLS yet. If that's the situation where it's not in the MLS yet, so it's not going to show up in this list for us to choose from, we can do can't find property. And so in that situation, I can do can't find property, and I just put in street number of the address, and then it'll put a pending assignment on it. Now, with the pending assignment, as of today, you aren't able to generate one-day codes whenever the lockbox is pending assignment. It has to be actually assigned before you can actually generate one-day codes. If there's a situation where you need to get like photographers and people like that in there before you put the listing in the MLS, you do have the ability to go on the Sentrilock website, and on the left-hand main menu of the website, there's an add a listing button, and you can manually add a listing in there. It only requires the address, and it really only requires the address to add a listing into our system. It doesn't even require the MLS number because you haven't entered it into the MLS yet in that situation. So you can add a listing, and then it'll show up in this list for you to assign the lockbox to at that point. So I'm gonna go ahead and assign the lockbox to this listing. And it tells me it's assigned, and I confirm that. So if I go ahead, if I click more settings in this case, this is where I get into the showing instructions. So you can see the layout here up there where it says none provided. Again, that's what's gonna come over to us from Flex. And then I have these check buttons here that I can select if I want to just do another reminder, take your shoes off, knock first, leave a card, different things like that. Very simple instructions. And then the bottom part is where I can add, type in additional details. So if I want to say dog in the backyard, don't go in the garage, whatever additional information, sanitize when you leave, or don't touch anything, whatever I want to put in this additional information, that's just another section that I can fill in any sort of gaps that are missing for my showing instructions that I want to make sure that they adhere to. So I type in what I want and I hit done. If the alarm is enabled, you can include an alarm code here, and that'll show up there in the initial page as well when they open the key compartment. The next section here is a place where you can add in the homeowner's contact information. So if you want the homeowner to receive the same notifications you get when the key compartment's opened, or when you get the end of showing notices, if you put the homeowner's cell phone numbers here, that's going to allow the system to text them whenever the notifications come through as well. That way they're in the loop with what's going on. Another good thing, I know it says homeowner notifications, and that's the ideal use of this feature, but if you pair up on listings sometimes and co-list, all the notifications are going to run through the primary listing agent in our system. So this is a good place to also include the cell phone number of anybody who you might be co-listing with on a listing. So you can put their contact information here as well. And that way they can receive instant notifications that way, and you don't have to kind of keep them in the loop on things. But this is all for text notifications. So once I've set all that up, I hit done. And now my lockbox is assigned to the listing with my showing instructions that'll be provided whenever they open the key compartment. And every time something happens in the lockbox, they'll get a text notification as well. Makes sense? Hopefully that's makes sense. So I'll open this up to the end. We can kind of retouch on any of this that I've gone over today at the end with some questions. So I'll kind of plug along here for a little bit longer, and then we'll take a pause and then open the door for some questions. So let's say I've already set up everything on my lockbox, and I've assigned it the property. I've gone through the section where I've set up my showing instructions. Let's say I forgot to do all that stuff. Down here in the app, there's property access settings. And if I go through and I find my listing, I can go in into any one of these listings that I've already set up under property access settings, and I can make any modifications that I want to this as well at a later date. So I've already got it on the property and I've assigned it. And if I've gone back home and I forgot to add some instructions to it, I can always go back to this and under the property access settings at a later date and update the showing instructions. So then it'll start providing that showing instruction when people open the key compartment. I think we're familiar with the get one day code. Everybody's familiar with the 1 day codes. Again, those you can generate a 1 day code for up to 14 days in advance. We do have an alternative method of access for temporary accesses, which is grant Sentry Connect access. So I'll touch on that here This is a great tool to use. I'll show you what it looks like from the end user perspective today. But ultimately, to give you the lay of the land for Grant Sentry Connect access, whenever I set this up, we have another app called Sentry Connect that the person would go to the App Store to download. It captures their email address and their phone number and contact information, what type of user they are, and all those sort of details when they set up an account with us for Sentry Connect. And so once I go in here and I select my property, and I want to grant somebody Sentry Connect access. So I'm going to grant myself Sentry Connect access. So you look up by their email, and that's gonna how they're registering their self on Sentry Connect. So once you authorize them access, they receive an instant notification that they've been granted access to your listing, or to your listing. So some of the rules with Sentry Connect is I can narrow down the time at which they can use Sentry Connect on my lockbox. So if I would just said I only want them in there for half an hour, for an hour, that's doable. We can make it, and they can't get inside the lockbox anytime outside of that hour. As opposed to one-day codes, let's say they're running for a late appointment, you have double booked appointments, and they're running late and they're going to be an hour late, but they say, well, I've already scheduled it. I'm just going to be a little bit late, and you have somebody coming, right behind them, and you don't want them to use the lockbox after that point. So with the one-day code, nothing can stop them from going outside of what they scheduled for their showing. They can use that code anytime throughout the day on the lockbox. With Sentry Connect, you can actually control the time they can use that. Another nice thing with Sentry Connect is if you have a contractor who's going to be in there for 8 hours, doing work, a one-day code, the one-day code will, once they use it, it expires after 60 minutes and they can't use it again. So with Sentry Connect, I can say, I'm going to allow you access all day today, 8 hours, and I can set it from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. or whatever time I want to go through today. And they can get in and out of the key compartment as needed throughout the day. So they can open it up in the morning, they can put the keys back, they can lock it back up, go to lunch, come back, unlock the lockbox, and then shut it down at the end of the day when they want to leave. So again, they can get in and out as needed. If they need to run out, do errands, come back, and they're not carrying the keys around. They don't have to. In those situations, you would probably have to give somebody multiple one-day codes to get in and out of the property throughout the day. Another nice thing is let's say I want them to do a week's worth of work. If they're a painter and they're going to be there for 3 days, for instance, I can send them up from today all the way through Friday. That'd be 4 days, but either way, you can give somebody access up to 14 days in advance, which you can also do it for running 2 weeks. So if somebody needs to get in and out as needed for that 2-week period, or for 3 days, 4 days, you can set up that range of access here, and it grants them access to get in and out as needed in that time frame. This could also be a good resource for homeowners. So if they don't have extra keys and for some reason, and they need, to get in and out of the lockbox as needed, if they want to pull the keys out of the lockbox at the end of the night or whatever, you can kind of make this process convenient for them as well, and give them Sentry Connect access so they can kind of get in and out of the key compartment as well. You get instant notifications when Sentry Connect is used. That's another nice thing with this. With one-day codes, you never know if they're used or not. You just have to assume that you gave it to them and they're going to use it, but you don't know that, and it's not reported on the log until after an app access, or after somebody accesses the key compartment behind them using the one-day code. With Sentry Connect, you get that instant notification that once the key compartment's open, you know it, and it's already, and it happened. So there's a lot of security and a lot of benefit to using Sentry Connect. I recommend, giving it a shot, seeing what you think. So I'm going to grant myself access to Sentry Connect. So I went in there just like you would a one-day code. You put in their email address here, and you go ahead and grant Sentry Connect access. Everything kind of ends with Touch ID, PIN number. And you can see I granted myself Sentry Connect access. This is what the end user would see, that they've been granted access to that listing. So for demonstration purposes, I'll show you what that looks like on the other end. So I'm going to go to Sentry Connect. And again, when they open this app up on the other end, it basically tells them what to do. They just press enter on the lockbox and it opens up. So the nice thing with Sentry Connect, it doesn't require them to do pen and touch ID. I mean, you'll set one up in the beginning, but ultimately once you're logged in, because we log you out daily in Sentry Connect, so they have to log into the app daily. And that's kind of their authorized credentials so that they can use it. But ultimately, it's really straightforward and simple on the other end of it. They just press enter and the lockbox opens up. We're going to keep advancing and developing Sentry Connect to a client-based app. So we will build this and keep building onto this Sentry Connect platform to make it a lot more feature rich. But as of right now, the contractors, out-of-town agents, homeowners, whoever you need to use this, they can use this app and you can grant them access as needed so that they can get in and use the key boxes whenever you authorize them to do so. With Sentry Connect, if you happen to put in the wrong email address or something like that, you do always have the ability to revoke that access. So that's another nice thing with Sentry Connect. If you forgot or maybe sent it the wrong email address, oh shoot, I sent it the wrong email address, I can revoke that access so that nobody can inadvertently get into my lockbox. Let's see here. So we are going to continue building on the features that we have on the app. As of today, this is kind of what you get access to. I guess in light of the ending Realtor Safety Month, we'll discuss just real quickly agent safety and what that does and what that looks like. So I did have somebody who's encountered a situation where agent safety kind of came into play here. And I'll describe that as I'm going through and setting up agent safety. So if you go to the 3-bar menu up at the top left, that's your hamburger menu that gives you access to all the additional things outside of just opening the key compartment. And when I go to my settings, I have the ability here to enable my touch ID, my facial recognition, those sort of things you can enable there if you haven't already enabled them. If your phone uses Touch ID to log into it, you're gonna be able to use that on Sentry Key if you're not already. But as far as agent safety goes, basically what it's used for is when you open the key compartment, you can start a timer going in the background. And after 2 minutes, every 2 minutes, it prompts you just to let the app know that all's good. You can have it keep going, running 2 minutes for the whole entire duration of the showing that you're involved with. You can shut it off immediately after the first prompt. It's all up to you on what you feel comfortable with. In the end, if it comes up and you just feel like, hey, I just want somebody to be on the phone with me or whatever, like give me a call just to check in. There's an option in the app to go ahead and send an alert. So I'll enable this, but ultimately these safety contacts, you have to set up a contact so it pulls from your phone book and you can add anybody in your phone book to that as a contact in here. And there'll be you can add up to, I think, 10 contacts in this list, and all those individuals will get the text. You don't designate which one you want to get a text at any time. It goes to all of them. So I set up my agent safety contacts. And so when I open the key compartment, I'll keep it enabled this time and we'll let that go through running just to show you what that looks like. So opens the key compartment. I go ahead and leave it enabled this time. And it's running in the background. So we'll see a prompt here in a minute. But ultimately, this lady that I talked to, she usually goes for coffee to meet with the clients beforehand. There was a situation where she did not. And in this situation, they were going to a listing. She was actually driving the individual around and she just didn't feel comfortable. He's like, when they pull up the driveway, the guy's like, okay, go ahead and park around back. She's like, well, no, the lockbox is out front. I'm parking in the front of the house. And it just immediately red flags are going off for her. And so she just wants to, kind of a discreet way to get out of this situation. So she opens the key compartment, she starts the agent safety timer. And so as the timer is ticking along, again, she's waiting for this prompt to come up. And I mean, we usually have our phone in our hands and doing stuff while I usually like to give your full attention to clients, but sometimes you can get away with having a phone in your hand and just paying attention to what's going on around you. But ultimately, when this prompt came up, she hit send alert, and she had two contacts in there. One was her boyfriend and one was her brother. So only one of the two people called her back, but somebody did call her back. And after all this transpired, she ended up single. So because only her brother called her back. And there was a conversation to be had. It is a way to test the loyalty of your friends and people and contacts, to see who's going to be there for you when you need them. So if I hit send alert, it's going to send an alert off on my behalf. And you can see my alert, agent safety alert, it's coming through. And if I look at the alert, it tells you the information of what's going on here. And it identified you as an emergency contact with our agent safety security feature. It gives the actual listing that I've entered in this situation. So I was at 7112 Maple Creek Drive. If for some reason the lockbox is not assigned to a listing, it actually sends your geo coordinates. So there would be a link in this email letting them know. And it went to my email because that's what I had set up. I didn't have my phone number set up, but it would text those individuals in your phone book, not just email them. But ultimately, it gives you a link to click and actually pinpoint you on a map where you are so that they can call you. If they can't get a hold of you, they can actually go to your location. So what happened in this situation is she hit send alert, and it sent the alert out to her brother, call her back. She got on the phone and she's like, oh no, okay, I'll be there in a minute. And so she kind of comes up with the story, I've had an emergency situation come up. I need to go and help out my family. We got to end this today. And that way she can cut ties, part ways, and just move on more discreetly than, try and just totally back out of things. So again, this isn't a feature that's going to allow, that is like, going to allow you to dial 911 and things like that. But what it can do is just give you creative ways to get out of situations you feel uncomfortable in. At the end of the day, if there's an attacker and something's happening, you're going to call 911. But ultimately, it is a feature that can be used in different ways to discreetly identify other people that, hey, I need you, kind of thing. So that's the agent safety feature app. We're going to be looking to do additional things. One of the things that we're going to be adding in safety feature wise is do something similar to this, but for an open house environment. It's not on the current radar because we have a lot going on with development and coming up with new business lines, but ultimately, eventually we will get that open house into the app as well as an option, so that when you're in an open house, you can kind of keep the prompt going and it's not every 2 minutes, it's more like every 15 minutes. There's other things like client identity verification. So you can text from our app individuals who you get online leads from and stuff like that. That way you can verify the identity from the phone number that they give you. So there's some other things we're going to throw in safety wise with the app. Again, those are a little more down the roadmap as far as development, but keep an eye out, and we're always working to improve the application and what we have in it at this time. So hopefully that's been a good ground level overview and give you more information and more details and things to do when something happens with the app. So right now, what we'll do is just I'll open this up, and any questions that you might have. Let's talk through things. Any situations you've run into before in the past, maybe I can help you work through that right now. So I'll open the door to questions at this point. Let me know what you have. Heather, am I missing anything else? Is this kind of good so far?
I have a couple of questions actually.
Yeah.
Because you know me, I like to throw a curveball at you. No. So for the Client Connect or the Sentrilock Connect,
Mhm.
Does the time frame work the same as like the lock boxes, or does it go beyond the time on the lock boxes? Because I think ours shut off at 9, I think, but sometimes we have out of town buyers that are coming in, and they need access to that lock box at 11 o'clock at night or something. Is that an option with Client Connect or Centric Connect? Sorry.
So as of right now, Client Connect does not. You're still restricted within the time set for the association.
Okay.
Yeah.
And on the log,
there.
when they're using the Centric Connect, it logs it that Sally Smith logged in at 10:05?
Yeah. So if I look at the access log here, which you can go to the app, I didn't share this. I probably should have. So if you go to that 3-bar menu from the home page and you do access log, this dives in and shows you all the accesses and the type of accesses that happen here. So you can see that I've got Sentry Key accesses. You can see the Sentry Connect access. And so when it's logged on here, it shows who it was accessed by.
Okay. And we had a question in the chat. How come the end of showing, it doesn't report that there was an end of showing?
So there's various reasons. So right now, as it stands, there's the timer option, which we haven't gotten a whole lot of traction on at this point. There's the other fallback method is the coordinates of your phone. So when you leave a half-mile radius of the property, it should pick that up and detect it. However, most people have the behavior of force closing their app after they get done with the showing. So if they just double click the home button and swipe away and close all their apps after they've used the app, that tends to break the whole our app working in the background kind of connection. So it all depends on that and the settings they have as far as location services and how they've got that enabled for the app to be able to detect their ending when they leave the vicinity half-mile radius of the property, because that's what we're looking for to automatically trigger that on our behalf, is that they leave the half-mile radius, and then once they do, then it should prompt in the showing. We always are continuously trying to improve that feature and make it better and better. I think we pick up more than what we have in the past now, but ultimately there's still some that get missed. And mostly due to the behavior of force closing the app and moving out of it, and then based on their settings that we can't track their location. We can only track their location when they're using the app, basically. So some of those settings that really prevent that and block the end of showing from happening. And the only other thing we do to try to capture that is if they open another lockbox after they leave. So if they've got back-to-back showings and they go to another showing and they open that lockbox, that would trigger an end of showing for yours as well. So those are the only ways we can actually capture that information. So sometimes it does get missed based on the settings and how they behave in the app.
Gotcha. Irina, I'm reading your questions. I think for that second question that you have about encountering where the key was reported as missing when it really wasn't, speaking from experience accessing my own property, it was probably an inadvertent finger slip, because I actually did the same thing, reported that the key was missing out of the lockbox on my home, and it really wasn't. It was just something, my finger slipped and I hit no, and you can't go back and say, oh, I made a mistake, and yes, it was still there. So I think for that, it probably was. And then she has one more question, Andrew. If you give out a one-day code, you cannot see what time the third party actually entered and left the property.
So I mean, as far as leaving the property, there's not really a way for end of showing there with the temporary access methods. That's really just using the app. But when they enter, if you use a one-day code, it does log it on the lockbox that what time they actually open the key compartment. So the report on the access log report will be accurate once it gets reported, but it won't get reported on the access log until somebody else has opened the key compartment. So with the app, because it's just, this lockbox is a standalone piece of hardware, has nothing to communicate, and it uses your phone to pass that information to the access log. So that's what it waits for. As opposed to Sentry Connect, it's got the phone component to be able to pass information along. So that's why you get the instant notifications and the instant feedback that it's being used to open the key compartment. Does that answer the question? No?
You good, Irina?
Good.
Okay, I have one question.
Sure.
So we work with kind of a team of people, and we've got, admin that will put on and take off lock boxes for us, including myself. I'm not the listing agent, but I do her lock boxes and everything. So we all have our own sign-in information. When we get to a house and we physically put a lockbox on the house, we cannot assign the lockbox to the house at our phone because it will only pull up listings that are assigned to me, and they're not assigned to me, they're assigned to my business partner.
Sure.
Is there any way to bypass that?
I'll get it fixed, Amy. I know exactly what to take care of.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's happened forever, and I think about it when it's happening. So we go back and we do it on the computer laptop, but yes, it would be fantastic if that was part of our super usering.
Yeah, so we have the ability to create teams on our system where when you team somebody up with another person that you maybe co-list or have a primary listing agent on all of them and somebody else on secondary on them, we could team you up. That way you have the ability to see all the listings back and forth, get codes, do all that stuff for the lock boxes, manage them as you would. The notifications will always only filter through the primary listing agent, which is why I brought up the homeowner notification as kind of an alternative to that.
Okay. Yeah, we don't really care as much about the notifications, and I think our situation's a little odd because it used to work the way that I'm asking it to, but that's probably because when we were our own office, we were a quote unquote team. But when we joined a franchise, then we went back to individual. So that is really, that would help us out a ton.
Very good.
I'll get you taken care of today, Amy. Just send me a list of everybody that needs to be all linked up. Cool. So I don't have anybody. Anybody else? Cricket.
Anything else you could think of that I missed, Heather, that you wanted to touch on, or did I cover all there?
I think you've got most of it in there. I don't think that we're missing much.
I kind of want to hear you say all of it, but
I think there'll be a question that will come up today. Somebody will call with some random question that I'll go, I don't know. Let me call Andrew. So, but I think you covered everything. Amy, was there anything else that we discussed that we wanted him to go over that he did not?
I don't really think so. I mean, like I said, most of it's kind of the agents panicking at the lockbox when things don't work. And that's kind of, the only other things that I just want people to realize is, first of all, they can call Sentrilock and they need to save that to one of their favorites on their phone rather than calling the listing agent first. A lot of times, if you can get a hold of Sentrilock, they can help you with a lot of tech straight from where they are. They can even pop some of those locks for you. So just, don't panic. Know that you have that phone number there. Please do contact them. I'm so glad that Andrew went over, some of those things about shutting down the app and going on, because there are little troubleshooting things that you definitely should be aware of. But, before going into full on panic and calling and yelling at the listing agent who also cannot do anything, just do be aware that there is a phone number that you can definitely call. They help you right away. They can walk you through a lot of those steps, and they're always able to be gotten a hold of. And just, to really get a hold of some of those tips and tricks. And I know the people who work for Sentrilock don't like to hear it, but a lot of times one of the best things to do if you're not getting lights to light up is just, take the palm of your hand and knock that lockbox around just a little bit, because sometimes that key gets lodged. And if the key's hitting something wrong, you're just not getting light. So just, they are built to withstand quite a bit of weather and everything that we have here. Don't be afraid to knock it a little bit. If you can't hear that key rattling around there, there could be a problem with that too. So just do be aware that there's lots of little things like that, that, it's such a great system. If any of you also are members of the Cape Fear Board and deal with Supra, that these are just the best lock boxes in the world. And we are so happy that we have them. Thank you to Jabor for making sure that this is our system. So, you know, but you know, learn some of those little tips and tricks too. But I love the things that Andrew said on there, because there are just little simple things that tech can go wrong, but there's not a whole lot that really, really goes wrong with these boxes.
So Amy, you make a couple good points, and one thing that it points out that I did not show here is the main menu from the left-hand 3 bars at the top. We'll call it the hamburger menu. If you do help at the bottom, there's a phone number there, and so the support phone number is right there in the app for you to get to, and so when you click that, it dials straight to our support team. So that is one place to go to get it, in case you didn't know. If you always have your card on you, it's on the back of the Sentry card as well. Hopefully most
We don't use cards anymore. We're fancier than that.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who would do that, but I'm not.
We still have a few floating around out there.
Well, and that is one other little tip and trick for all of you. If you can't get that box to wake up and you're waiting for either Sentrilock to pick up or somebody else, even if you don't have your Sentrilock card on you, which most people don't, if you've got your driver's license or a credit card or anything about that size, go ahead and, you know, insert that into the spot underneath that function and enter key where, you know, we used to stick the cards, because sometimes it just needs that little mechanical push. Even a business card works. I probably wouldn't put a credit card in there if you actually want to use that credit card again. But, you know, anything that you can think of, just some of those little things that really help you just be a lot less freaked out when something goes wrong. There are very simple fixes a lot of the time, and that is one. I haven't had to use it for a while. I think the Bluetooths on our new boxes are obviously much better than when we were in kind of transition between using apps and cards, but there are still some times when just, you know, inserting a card, even a business card in there, will wake it up a little bit too.
I feel like Amy's worked at Sentrilock before.
We trained her well. What can I say?
She's got all
I
the
am the
tips and
keeper of
tricks
all
here.
the random knowledge for Jabor.
Yeah.
She really is. She's a fantastic resource for us. And I feel like she's hitting all the things that I was like, make sure you say such and such, make sure you say such and such. And then she says it. So thank you.
She's cleaning up my my Slack here.
Well, we kind of figured that these were things that maybe you wouldn't say.
Like hitting the lockbox.
In the real world, and you know.
Yeah.
Our lockboxes do withstand a whole heck of a lot. The only thing that I've ever seen them not be able to withstand is Hurricane Florence and that random tornado from a couple years ago. But other than that, I mean, we've had them come back having had blowtorches taken to them and people smashing them and trying to pry them open with a crowbar. It does not work. But the flooding from Florence definitely did take out just a few of them. So.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, like, they are very durable when it comes to water and that sort of thing. I mean, try to hang them as vertical as possible, because the design of it allows water to flow down, and you'll see these gaps and everything in there. That doesn't allow you to get into the circuitry up where the keypad is, but if you lay it down flat like this and it rains, water goes, gravity takes over, and it sinks into the circuitry of the lockbox, then that could kill it, at least the keypad, and it gives you a problem. So yeah, to that point, do hang it vertical so that you don't run into any water damage on the lockbox. But they're durable, and sometimes I'll have as a troubleshooting thing to take the lockbox and slam it on the ground, and yeah, just to shuffle the batteries around and get the cycle.
Y'all don't do that. They're $125 to replace them. Do not smash them on the ground.
That's very true. I do say that, and I do that with you because I know what's happening. But I don't recommend anybody else doing that at this point. But
no, we'll let Andrew do a YouTube video demonstration so y'all can see what happens. But we don't smash our lockboxes on the concrete. Thanks, Andrew.
Yes.
I love it. It's fantastic. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, well, thank you, Andrew, again, for giving us your time this morning. We appreciate it very much. It was a lot of really good information. I learned some things as well, so that's awesome. This Client Connect, CentriConnect thing is going to be something that I get pushed out there a little bit more to our members for those that don't know. So,
Very good.
All righty.
Excellent.
Everybody have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on the next go.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having me.